Oh, you know the drill here on Fridays. It's a little bit different here on the 208. We like to keep the conversation going with you and take some more time during our Friday edition of the program to answer your questions, address your comments. And this week, we got a lot of random questions all over the place sent in to us. So we are going to do our best to answer as many as we can, rapid fire style. So here we go. We'll start with this. John in Meridian asked us this week a few times, is insurance required for the illegal driver's license? So what he's talking about is Senate Bill 1081. It's actually called the restricted driver's licenses. And the licenses are meant for undocumented Idaho residents who need driver's licenses to work and live. And the answer to John's question is basically yes. To get car insurance, you need to have identification, meaning a driver's license. So you don't need car insurance to get a driver's license, but you need a driver's license to get your car insurance, if that all makes sense. So this new legislation that's being talked about at the State House, it would allow Idahoans to get a driver's license so they're eligible for car insurance, which advocates for the idea say would make the road safer for everyone. Keeping a close eye on that one, though, heading into next week. Then on Monday, Deb and Emmett asked us, do you know if the new statue at the Capitol, the women's suffrage one, will it eventually have a plaque providing information about the statue? And to be honest with you, I think the statue, it's kind of as is. That's what we're going to get. But if you wanted some more information or you're curious about the design and the story behind it, we actually did a full feature on it. And you can find that by searching Idaho Women's State Capitol Suffrage Statue. You can search that at ktvb.com and you'll be able to find out the whole story and history behind it. And we also got a lot of questions on Wednesday this week when we talked about daycare funding, education savings accounts, and the Idaho launch and militia bill. So clearly, the legislature has a lot on their plate, many different topics. So we'll start with Shane. Shane asked, if the legislature does not get all their work done by the end of March, can't they call themselves back anytime they want? So he's correct, they can, but the only thing that the legislature has to do in terms of their job, constitutionally mandated, is pass budgets and review the rules. And outside of that, there's nothing they have to do before going home. So Shane is correct. Lawmakers do have the power to call themselves back into session, but that is a wait and see if there is an issue so big that lawmakers decide they can't wait for next year. The end of March, by the way, is a target end date. There's nothing that forces the legislature to go home on the 24th of March, but Speaker Mike Moyle of the Idaho House says that's a day he's got circled on his calendar. We'll find out how accurate it is in the next few weeks. Also on Wednesday for you, Winton from Boise asked us, is using taxpayer dollars for religious schools, homeschools, constitutionally valid in the state of Idaho? And that's a great question that gets a lot of conversations, and honestly, it depends on who you ask. But there is something in the Idaho Constitution that touches on public money for private institutions, and this is commonly referred to as the Blaine Amendment, which basically says that the legislature or any county, city, school district, etc., they cannot give public money to a church or religious society or a school or other literary or scientific institution controlled by any church or religious denomination whatsoever. So that's what the Blaine Amendment talks about here in the state of Idaho, but there is currently legislation trying to remove that amendment. And Senate Joint Resolution, it's called 102, it's proposing to repeal the Blaine Amendment from the Idaho Constitutions. Now, some say that this is so things like the education savings accounts, for example, which is essentially a program where public money could go to private, religious, and homeschools. The idea of repealing the Blaine Amendment is so that programs like ESAs can happen in Idaho. So SJR 102, as it's called. It was printed and is sitting in the Senate State Affairs Committee. It is important to note, though, that there are those that say that the Blaine Amendment in Idaho is actually null because of a court decision made over in Montana. To be very clear, though, the district court decision, the court decision over in Montana, it said that if a state gives public dollars to a private school, then they also have to give them to a religious school. So you couldn't just pick one or the other, it's all or nothing. That was the specific Montana issue that was solved in their courts, and in the courts, I should say. Now in Idaho, that Blaine Amendment, it is on the books, as we just showed you, and there is an argument that it prevents things like the proposed ESA program. So It would take a legal test, I suppose, but yes, Idaho has a law that prevents aid of any church or sectarian or religious society or any sectarian or religious purpose, or to help support or sustain any school, academy, seminary, college, university, anything like that that has to do with religion or any organization that's controlled by the church. So there you go. Long story short, it's something, though, that we're going to have to keep an eye on here over the next few weeks and likely the next few years. Staying with the legislature, Sue in Boise says, if the daycare funding that we talked about this week was from COVID relief funds, it's federal dollars designated specifically. Can the state just change that? And that's from Sue in Boise. And long story short, no, Sue, they cannot, because those federal dollars, they have very specific strings attached to them and how Idaho has to use them. And they have to be very careful that federal aid dollars are being used correctly. If not, there can be major consequences that could lead to a state like Idaho losing federal dollars next time around. Leslie in Meridian asked us this week, since there is no statute of limitations on murder, can women who have had an abortion years ago be charged with murder? And the answer to your question is no. And the abortion laws in Idaho, to be clear, they don't criminalize a pregnant mother or a woman who gets an abortion. The criminal in Idaho's abortion laws are the doctors or the providers that would be doing the illegal abortion under Idaho law. And then yesterday, on Thursday, Rhonda in Meridian asked something related to legislation, but this one would be federal legislation. She said to us, can you talk about daylight saving time again? Is it a for sure thing? And so, Rhonda, the short answer is yes. For now, daylight saving time is still a for sure thing, unless you live in the state of Arizona, so that your clock will spring forward this Sunday here in Idaho, meaning that you'll lose an hour of sleep late on Saturday, early on Sunday morning, but we'll gain an hour of sunlight on the back end, which is always good news. So the new sunset time starting next week, really on Sunday, it'll be around 7:30 p.m., so about an hour later than we're seeing it now. As for the legislation, only an act of Congress can decide to make daylight saving time permanent year-round. And last March, the Sunshine Protection Act was reintroduced to keep daylight saving time permanent starting on November 5th of this year. So no falling back, but as of this week, the bill still hasn't been voted on in the United States Senate, and it would have to pass the U.S. House and be signed by President Biden. So no daylight saving time is not gone yet, so don't forget to change your clocks on Sunday morning when you wake up. Of course, from 2 to 3 a.m., that's when the big hour jump will be, so you'll probably be asleep. But anyways, we love to hear your comments and your questions, and really what drives our program here on the 208. So please keep sending in anything you'd like to 208-321-5614, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some more questions coming up in future shows.